Happy Thursday afternoon. It's great to see all of you. My name is Brittany Barlett. I'm the new Executive Director of Try This West Virginia. I'm super excited to have you all here today, and I am going to immediately pass this over to Kate Long, our awesome Media Director, to introduce our speaker today, and I hope you enjoy today's event.
Okay, everybody, I'm glad to see you all here. The first rule of Try This is always go with the flow. This is our first time doing this, and we guarantee that things will go wrong. And this is a session on stress reduction. And so as we find our way and learn how to do this, we may have some stressors. And luckily, we have this wonderful Aila Accad with us today to let us know how we can deal with that stress. And so I want to introduce Aila. Aila is one of the most wonderful people I know. I've known her for years. I used to make music at her events and in her speaker events, and I just came to understand that this is probably one of the wisest people I've ever known. And I'll be here to facilitate this session, but Aila is the director of the Future of Nursing West Virginia. We've had our first glitch here. Aila is the director of the Future of Nursing West Virginia. She is a very sought after speaker and one of the most popular people in Charleston when people talk about stress reduction and mindfulness. She's come to the Try This conference 4 times now to operate the mindfulness session. And so I'd like to just go ahead and introduce to you Aila Accad with Instant Stress Busters. And as I said, go with the flow. We're learning how to do this along with you. Okay, Aila.
Hello, everybody. I'm excited to be with you, and I'm delighted to be sharing these stress busters with you. It's going to be a short session. So if we go kind of fast, don't worry about it. There's lots of support materials. If you go to YouTube and put my name in, you'll see lots of little videos about stress reduction. You'll see the tapping technique that we're going to talk about today. And you'll also can do that on my website, ailaspeaks.com. But right now, what I want to do is ask you a question. What stresses you? And just think about it for a second. What is the biggest things that stress you? What are the biggest things that stress you? And you can go ahead and put those in the chat box, okay? And so we can see some of the things that stress you. And the other question I have for you is, where do you feel that stress? So people usually they'll get a headache, neck and shoulders, lower back, chest, belly, all kinds of places behind your eyes. So what stresses you and where do you feel it? Okay, so those are the first 2 questions I'd like you to just respond to. I'm going to put my glasses on here and take a look at what you're telling me. Okay. Not being able to get together with people, trying to serve our students during a pandemic, time management in my chest, in the jaw, yes. Neck and shoulders, very good. Okay. Back of my neck, very good. Lower back, shoulders and jaw. And she says, always, okay. Yeah, so you'll notice that no matter what's stressing you, you generally will feel it in the same part of your body. So that's kind of a trigger for you to know when you're stressed, right? Okay, this is great. This is great. Stomach. Yeah, these are the usual places. Now, so here's my observation. So if you look at it, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share a little slide here with you. Okay, So what you'll find is that most of the stressors you mentioned come under 3 categories: time, nature, and other people. Time has to do with time management. Somebody said time management, but also has to do with the past. Okay, so if you have something that happened in the past and it keeps bugging you and it keeps coming to your mind and it's stressing you because of something that happened in the past, or worrying about the future. So some people are worriers, and their mind just goes to, well, what if this happened? And what if that happened? And you're worrying. So one of the things to understand about your mind is it tends to be like a worrier tends to have a future-oriented mind. Well, what can you do about that? Instead of looking at the future you fear, switch to the future you want. Okay? Your mind's going to go to the future. You can't stop that. And people have probably told you there's no point worrying about these things because they're never going to happen. And it doesn't help to know that because your mind's still going to the future. What can help is shifting it from the future you fear to the future you want. So what do I want? And that's the question to ask at that point. Nature. Nature has to do with pretty much everything from the weather to health and here again, the future of what's going to happen next. So that nature is not, is something that we live within and we are part of nature. And what can we do about that? So we're going to talk more about that in a minute. And then the biggest list is usually other people. Everyone from neighbors to kids to spouses to anyone. That's the big list of things that stress us. And then, of course, you got technology down there at the bottom. So chances are what you're talking about what in the chat box comes under one of these categories. And where you feel it in your body tends to be pretty consistent. And you'll notice that. So if you think about it, time, nature, and other people, what do they have in common in terms of, aside from being stressful, what do they have in common? Think about that for just a second. Oops. Where did I go?
Yeah. This is the perfect example of stress reduction needs. We're getting a very stressful technological situation here. And
so Barb Tucker has the answer right here.
yeah.
Thank you, Barb. Thank you, Barb. Yeah, the fact of the matter is we have no control. So this is the bottom line on stress. Anytime you're stressed, the point is you're feeling out of control. You're feeling out of control. So just know that. So the question to ask at that point is, what is it that I'm feeling out of control? What is, and the trick, the stress buster is, how can I get back in control fast? That's the bottom line. If you just remember that, you're going to be doing great. So why am I feeling out of control and how can I get back in control? So everything we're going to talk about from this point on is how to get back in control fast without any extra time or money. There are quick things you can do to get back in control, and that's the trick to stress busting. So I'm going to go here and actually, I'm not going to share my screen. I think I'm just going to talk to you for a minute. The principle that you need to understand about health and stress is about energy. There's 2 basic kinds of stress. Eustress, that's the exciting energy that gets us moving in the morning. It gets us excited. It's our passion. We choosing our career goals, all of those things. And then there's distress, and distress is the part that's destructive, that tears your body down, that causes you problems, and particularly health problems. When I was in nursing school, I had an instructor who said 85% of all disease and illness is due to stress. And the minute she said that, a light bulb went on for me. I thought, if that's true, why aren't we helping people get rid of their stress so they don't have to be sick? From that point on, and that was back in a long time ago, to be that way. From that point on, that was my mission, was to find out what stresses us, how to get rid of it, and what's the quickest way and the most efficient way for people to get back to their health. Well, if you understand, it's all about energy, right? It's all about energy. So all of these strategies I'm going to talk to you about have to do with increasing your energy or decreasing your energy. And that's the basic principle, right? So if you understand, and most of us have seen a deceased person in our life. If you think about it, what's missing? All the hardware is still there. The brain is still there. The heart, all the organs that haven't been removed are all there. So what's missing when someone dies? And I bet you somebody has an answer in our chat box. What's missing? What would you call it? Energy. Exactly. You might call it spirit. You might call it soul. You might call it any number of things, but it's really talking about consciousness. We're talking about energy. Okay, so energy is the key to everything. So let's start with the body. Okay, so strategies for the body. Well, what does the body need to be alive and to have energy? We need nutrients. We need water, we need air, we need sun, and we need movement and sleep, right? Movement and sleep. Now think about it. The air's become polluted in many areas. The water's become polluted. That we're not supposed to be out in the sun without chemicals on our body. And, you know, how many of you get 8 hours of sleep a night? You know, and then how many of us are moving enough, especially now with COVID? You know, this is my fourth Zoom meeting today. So, you know, how many of us are moving as much as we need to? So if you think about that, why are people sick? Why are people sick? So you see this little pad on your palm? What I want you guys to do is take that pad and put it right here on your forehead and say, duh. Okay, why are we not feeling great? Why are we so stressed? Well, we're not doing all of those things. And then food, how much of your food is really nutritious? Now, you guys have tried this, folks, so more of us are eating better these days probably than a lot of people. So eating the nutritious food, filtering your water, breathing the fresh air periodically. So many of us are stuck inside. Go outside, breathe the fresh air, be in nature. When you're in nature, you actually, the energy, and you can even see it on the trees, you know, you can sort of see that little bit of heat coming off of there, that energy. When you're in nature, you're actually synchronizing your vibration with the natural order of things, which is part of our nature, right? Standing on the ground, there's something called earthing, which you're standing on the earth and you actually have the ions coming up and down and renormalizing your body. So these are the physical things, the body things that can increase our energy and decrease our energy. And thinking about food in particular, about 20 minutes after you eat, notice, do I have more energy or less energy? I have a friend who runs marathons and he eats pasta and he runs a marathon. I eat pasta and I'm ready for a nap. Okay, so it's not what food is right for everybody, it's what's right for you. If I eat a fresh green salad, I have more energy. I notice that within 20 minutes, I feel energized. If I eat pasta, I'm ready for a nap. So I don't do that during the day. You know, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do it at night before I go to bed. So be aware, just be aware of what energizes you and what takes your energy away, and realize it's very personalized. So now let's go to the mind. When it comes to the mind, there are certain ways that you can energize and be more positive. You know, people are telling you, you ought to think positive. Well, that's all well and good to say, but how do you do it? How do you think positive when your mind is just going around and around with all this stuff that's been happening? One of the tricks I've learned is to ask this question. So we know all the stuff that's going wrong, right? We're kind of conditioned to be problem solvers. So we see all the problems. When you're feeling really bogged down with these negative thoughts or these problem-oriented thoughts, the question to ask is, what's right? What's right now in this moment? I want you to ask your mind that right now. What's right? See what your mind comes up with. And you can put it in the chat if you want. What's right now? And the question is, what else is right? Let your mind come up with the next thing and then ask, and what else is right? Do that about 3 times. And what you'll start to find, see, our mind likes to answer questions. Our mind is all about answering questions. My coffee is so good. I love that. So we're about asking questions. We're about answering questions. Ask the right question. Ask the question that's going to get you a positive answer. What's right? And what you'll find is your mind starts to then do a little litany of all the things that are right. It starts off on a path that where it's now running through your mind all the things that are right. When you go to bed, you know, the fact that you have a bed, you have a roof over your head, simple things. I get in the shower and I go, thank you for indoor plumbing. I love the fact that I can take a hot shower. And, you know, there's lots of folks who, yeah, my little dog. See, there's all kinds of things that are right. So in every moment, there's both and, right? There's the problems that you can solve. And when you get to the point where your mind is going negative, 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 stop and ask the question, what's right? This has to do with gratitude, right? You can have a gratitude journal. You can sit at night before you go to bed, write down the 5 top things that happened that day that you are grateful for and that you love. You're going to have a better rest. You're going to have a more restful sleep, right? Instead of going to bed on anger, frustration, upset. So that's one thing. So there's a principle of energy that has to do with thinking, and it is what we focus on expands. What we focus on shows up more. So focus on what you want, not what you don't want. Now, we're conditioned to focus on what we don't want. Oh, I hope I don't get a ticket on my way to this meeting because I'm, you know, going a little too fast. Oh, I hope I don't run across an officer and that happens. I hope I don't get all the red lights. You know, we're looking for all the problems, right? Instead, and I have done this, and folks, it works every time. I visualize where I'm going to park when I get to that place, and sure enough, there's a parking place. Okay, this used to drive my former husband crazy because I could always find a parking place, even in the places where it's hardly ever there. You know, downtown, right in front of the library, I would have a parking space because I focused on it first beforehand. Now, is this magic? No. Have you bought a car? Have you ever bought a new car? I think most of you probably had at one point or another. When you drove that car off the lot, what did you start to see on the road? If you're answering the same car, you're right, okay? That tends to happen. We're seeing the same car we just bought. Why? Were those cars there before? Yeah, we just didn't notice them as much, right? Because now we're focused on what we want, what we like, what we just bought. So when you focus on what you want, it's almost like magic. And some people think this is like woo-woo. It's not. It's a law of nature. We cannot take in all of the data that's in our environment. So what does our mind do? It focuses in on what's important to us. If you do that, so here's January. In January, I usually have a retreat where people do a vision board. If you've never done a vision board, there's an article on my website that explains, under articles, that's how to make a vision board. Basically, all you're doing is taking images and words that are something that really means something to you and that you want to see more of in your life. You put that on a board and look at it every morning, or at least once a day or whatever, you're going to find those things show up in your life more. Why? Because you're focused on them. It's important to you. Your mind, the reticular activating system in the back of your mind, is looking for it. So you open a magazine and there it is. You ask a question and here's someone calling you with the answer. And this just happened to me this morning. It's really crazy. I was talking to somebody about sustainability for a grant, and I went to my cabinet with note paper. I pulled out a little notebook that I picked up at some workshop somewhere. I opened it up, and do you know the very first thing in that notebook was sustainability? I was like, whoa, where did that come from, right? But here I'm thinking about sustainability, and what prompted me to even open that cabinet and pull that book out? I can't tell you, it's like magic, but it works all the time. This is what you focus on shows up, and you can just practice that, and you'll see it for yourself once you're aware. The other part of that principle is what you resist will fight back. What you resist persists. If you have someone in your environment, you can actually play this little exercise with them where you put your hand up against someone else's hand and one of you starts to push. Well, guess what? The other one's going to be pushing back. If you've raised a 2-year-old or a 12-year-old, you have experienced this principle, right? What you push against pushes back. And that is true all the time. It's a law of nature. It's not a surprise. So here's what we know. We've had a war on drugs, a war on food, obesity, a war on you name it. Have these things gotten better or worse? They tend to get worse. Because what you push against, heck, we've been fighting against what? Gun control and all this stuff. And here comes another group pushing against. We just had that yesterday, didn't we? So it's like a law of nature. Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., all the great peacemakers had understood this principle. They understood the principle of not fighting against, but fighting for. Being for freedom, being for everyone's equality and equity. This is the key. So when you have this negative language about being against something, think about what are you for? Because that's going to float. It's like going with the wave instead of trying to swim against it. So what are you for? So these are the tricks for the mind. Focus on what you want, be grateful for what you have, and what are you for, not what are you against. So we did the body, the mind, here's the spirit. When you think about energy, everything has a vibration, right? Color, sound, fragrance. You have a lot of people these days doing essential oils, right? Essential oils, color. What colors vibrate that make you feel good? Or what colors make you feel relaxed? So think about that. And music, of course, music can switch your mood in a heartbeat. If it reminds you of something really a wonderful time you had, for me, it's that rhythmic jazz, like Latin jazz. I have that on my phone, and I get in the car and I just put that on, and my mood is great. I am excited. I'm happy. I'm going. My vibration is fantastic. And then there's music that doesn't do it for me. There's music that used to do it for me and doesn't anymore. That kind of meditative, slow, that used to be perfect for me and not anymore. This is more my music. So think about that. What can you put on that changes your mood, changes your mental state right away? Music can do that for us all the time. And I love my good buddy, Kate, who is such a beautiful singer and musician, and she's right. We did this workshop together, and she came up with a song at the end. It was just perfect, and I still sing it all the time to myself. Where we go from here? Where do we go from here? And it's just a fantastic song, and she came up with it just like that. So we have good vibes together. What people energize you? Right? Well, there's some people you can just think about giving them a call and you smile, right? Or a picture in front of you that makes you smile. I have a picture of my 2 grandchildren who wanted to plant something. So they actually dug up some weeds from my driveway, put them in a pot. And here's the 2 kids. You'll see them in my book if you have a copy of the book. These 2 little girls with these weeds that are dead in these pots, and they're so proud of themselves because they planted them in these pots. That photo, I just have to take a look at it and I'm smiling. So what pictures do that for you? Okay, put them in front of you, put them on your desk. Maybe it's a place, maybe it's the seashore, or maybe it's the mountains. So these are the things that will bring us back from that negative state quickly. Think about vibrations. And now I'm going to show you one, it's emotions. I'm going to show you a technique that is my absolute favorite of all time. And we're going to go through this tapping technique. Don't worry about taking notes or remembering it, because there's a video on my website, also on YouTube, that shows you exactly how to do it. And this little technique is, I can't say too much about it. It's called Emotional Freedom Technique, EFT, or tapping. So what I'm going to ask you to do is think about something that stresses you right now. Think about something that stresses you. Really see the picture in front of your face, the picture of the person or situation that stresses you all the time. 0 to 10, how bad does it feel in that place that usually hurts? 0 to 10, how bad does it feel? I want you to get that negative feeling up. Okay, so right now we are stressing ourselves. Okay, we're going to stress ourselves by just thinking about something that stresses you, and you can feel it, right? Okay, see some people shaking their heads. Good. Okay, so here's what you're just going to do: what I do and say what I say. So on the side of your palm where you would chop a karate board, we call it the karate chop point, you're going to tap. Now, it doesn't matter which hand, either way. Tapping right here, I want you to say, even though, just thinking about this stresses me.
Just thinking about this stresses me.
I accept myself anyway.
I accept myself anyway.
And even though it hurts me to think about it.
To think about this.
I accept myself anyway.
I accept myself anyway.
And even though this tapping isn't going to help one bit.
This tapping isn't going to help one bit.
I accept myself anyway.
I accept myself anyway.
Now, focusing on this thing that stresses you, tap the top of your head, right where that baby soft spot would be. Between your eyebrows. Oh, the stress this causes me. Side of your eye, and here again, it doesn't matter which side, or you can even do both. Under your eye, right on the bone. Oh, this thing stresses me. I want you to focus on what stresses you.
All right.
In the chin groove. And the collarbone is just under the bone. You feel your knobs of the collarbone just right under there in the soft tissue. You're going to tap there. And then under your arm about 2 inches down. Now take a deep breath and let it go. Think about, put the picture of the problem you started with in your mind. What stressed you to begin with? 0 to 10, how bad is it now? Okay, so did your number go down?
Yeah.
And you're thinking about the same thing you thought about before. For most people, it will go down. Now, if it has not gone down, it's not a problem with the tapping. we haven't been specific enough about what the stressor is, okay? So you really want to look at what is it that's in that scenario that stressed me, and then do it again. And you can do the tapping again. Now, keep in mind, we only did half the points. We didn't even do all the points. And this is based on the same principle as acupuncture. It's like acupuncture without the needles. These are pressure points, acupressure points. One of them has reduced your stress. We don't know which one, but they're attached to different parts of the body. So if you tap them all, you will get results. If you notice when you actually feel a little better, or maybe you take a deep breath, you sigh, and you'll notice that it just went away. Notice which point was it. So for each person, there's like a point, a specific point that seems to work most of the time. And you could just do that one. You don't have to do them all. You can do just that one once you know what it is. This is an emotional freedom technique. It's a tapping technique, and you just tap the points while you're thinking about the problem. So it's sort of counterintuitive, because we're not saying don't think about it, think about something positive. We're just saying, no, focus on the negative, because that's going to release it from your body. So the principle here is that energy gets stuck. If you have an experience, particularly a traumatic experience, let's say you even had an accident, or somebody was abusing you, that stuff is pretty heavy. It'll take the surface off, but then working with an individual coach, you can actually get rid of the stress from the original experience. Folks, I've had people with fibromyalgia. We did the tapping, and then we focus on the trauma that started it off. So the evidence is that there's 3 different kinds of reactions that we have, primitive reactions to stress: fight, flight, and freeze. So the freeze reaction, when you can't fight it off and you can't flee, it tends to get stuck. About 12 to 18 months after the onset of that trauma, the muscles and the joints are so sore that you've got this pain, and guess what? Medicine has nothing for it. They can't give you anything that's really going to get rid of it. And it's very frustrating. So these are sort of the autoimmune problems people have. But guess what? The tapping at that deeper level to release the trauma works. I've got folks who are pain-free and medication-free because of that. So I'm just excited to share these simple things with you that can reduce your stress in a moment, because when you're in that moment, and trust me, I've been there. I've lost a son. I've been diagnosed with cancer. And there was a day when I was on the sofa and with a cover over my head, and I didn't want to see anyone or get up or do anything. I took that cover off my head, and the thought came to me, if I had a heart attack right now, who would do all this stuff that I'm doing? And instantly a thought came to me, well, my daughter would be cooking and my son would be doing the wash. He wasn't gonna be happy about it, but he would. And my former husband would go to the grocery store. And I thought, well, if they can do it when I'm dead, why can't they do it now? It was a revelation. I was taking so much on myself, and I know you guys do this too, because you're on this call. So you're the ones who are stressing yourselves with trying to take care of everybody and everything. Think about the fact there may be someone out there who really loves to do one of those things that you're doing, that you could delegate it. And that freed me up to learn more about how to let go of a lot more stress. So I hope this has been helpful to you. It certainly is a delight to me to share it with you. And please let me know. You can always even email me at ailaspeaks@gmail.com, and I'm happy to answer questions for you, because I know this was short and sweet.
I would like to come in here and just kind of ask you a couple of questions, Aila. The first one I have is, there are lots of, even when we have ideas about what we can do to reduce stress, the hard thing is to remember to do those things in the moment. How do you remember at the time that you're just about to lose it or something? Oh, I could do this.
Right. So that's a great question. And here's my answer to that is even the tapping, it's muscle memory. Remember to do it if you practice. You don't have to do all of these things. Okay, so here's the other thing. Don't overwhelm yourself. You don't have to do all of these things. Body things, pretty simple. Take a deep breath. Once you practice that enough times, you'll remember to take a deep breath. Okay, you have to practice this. Say take a week and just take a deep breath every time you feel stressed, or just do the tapping every time you feel stressed. Just do one thing. Remember to eat something energizing. Okay, music, just putting the music on. So whatever it is that you're attracted to, of all the things we talked about, asking the right question, asking a positive question. What's right? What's right now?
That's
It's like muscle memory. You begin to do it automatically in that same state. So yeah, at the beginning you won't remember, because guess what? When you're stressed, the blood all rushes from your head and you can't think. So it's as soon as you start to relax that, now these good ideas come to you. So I do this with kids who have test anxiety, tapping before the test. Well, then you can think again. They have the answers. They just can't think of them because now they're stressed.
That's really useful, Aila. The other question I want to ask is, and I want to say, first of all, that we are, the first rule for try this is always sort of go with the flow, because things may not work. Aila had a very lovely presentation prepared with a slideshow, and Zoom would not let us show that. So that's a bug we're going to have to work out. But you've given us a lot of great ideas anyway. And I wanted to let people know how much I admire this woman, Aila. Aila, I have watched Aila go through very serious cancer this last year. I mean, cancer that ordinarily people would say, well, this person is not going to be with us much longer. And her attitude, her ability to, I can tell that you've been practicing the stress busters, because I would, when I would come to talk with Aila, I would be more stressed than she was. and I think, how do you do that? How does, and you must have been thinking about how attitude affects your body.
That's what they've told me. In fact, my oncologist, is interesting because I've been through 2 rounds of chemo, one last year and one this year, and have had, except for my hair loss last year, have had no side effects. I have none of the big side effects most people have. And my doctor is like even amazed, because he says, you're my only person who doesn't have any side effects. Well, it's really not only attitude, but also doing the things I'm talking to you about. I do the tapping. I do eat, healthy. I do all the things that I'm talking to you about. Being in nature. I'm very fortunate because I live in the middle of the woods. So just going outside and getting up and doing my treadmill just 5 minutes at a time, and not expecting myself to be, perfect at any of it. And sure enough, that works. It's the simple little things that make a huge difference. And it's just practicing them every day. That's the other thing. Little bit every day. You don't have to be perfect in any of this, and you don't have to do it all, for sure.
Well, I will take away the whole thing of practicing this, that I will try to, concentrate on taking a deep breath and so forth. And I wonder if we could take a minute and just put into the chat, what will you take away? What one thing might you do?
Cool.
All right, and somebody's saying little alarm bells on my phone to remind myself of new
Yes,
habits.
yes, to remind yourself to stand up every hour. I have that. reminding myself to not sit there for 2-3 hours at a time, which I easily can do.
I noticed that somebody said that they were going to do the tapping with their daughter. Does this work with children also?
Oh, children love it. Children it's great. It's good for young children, like before they go to bed, just to think about some things that day that might have stressed them and do the tapping. You don't even have to say all the things we said. They can just tap. Kids actually teach other kids. They just love it. It's been shown to help also with ADHD. There's some evidence that it works for that as well.
Okay. Anybody else that would like to chime in on this? You have the ability to unmute yourself right now. Pam Santer, let's hear from you. What are you thinking about? You can unmute yourself.
Hi. Peace begins with me. The little thing that we're teaching the children. And what is so fascinating is to be out and around in town, and all of a sudden you see some little child over there going like this, and you go, oh, it's working. They've learned it from something. Or even seeing a child. I have seen children do the tapping. Now, my oldest daughter's an occupational therapist, and then she's in Ritchie and Work County schools. So she uses this. She said nothing pleases her more is if she's walking by a classroom and she sees the student in there doing it like that. But I think these are what to do before sessions.
Yes.
Like I'll even do some tapping before I teach my yoga classes.
Yeah.
And even, yeah.
It's self-empowering. So kids, especially teenagers, love it because it's self-empowering.
Oh,
They
yeah.
themselves.
The teenagers, when I did the middle high school was working with them, and it was in the particularly mindfulness. We started with tapping because I thought I would get them ready with the tapping, and then they'd be sitting there in the classroom just doing something like that, a couple days later, and I go, they know it works. It feels good, so they're doing that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. I just want to remind you too, I've got 5 COVID, they're marked COVID, but they're really just stress buster videos on YouTube. They're like 2 minutes each. A couple of them are for tapping and also for the thinking, in terms of what do I want and what's right. So they're on there too that you can use with other people if you want.
Well, Aila, we totally appreciate you taking time with this, particularly under this stressful situation. We just had 2 minutes before we went on the air that Aila couldn't see her screen.
Well, the good news is we didn't need the slides. I mean, it's like an enhancement. It's a little visual. Yeah, we didn't need it.
I think we're finding out a lot from this first time. And we hope that you will we have some other series coming up next week. On Tuesday, Pam Santer, who you just heard from, and Amy Snodgrass will be giving you lots of ideas about things that you can do with kids that reduce their stress and keep their bodies moving and so forth. So that's going to be on Tuesday and at 11 o'clock, I believe. And so I think Brittany's going to type the URL that you can look at to get to sign up for those, and we hope you will. We will be practicing our technology in between then and now. Okay.
Well, and thank goodness for Zoom and these things while we've been indoors, because it's really been a boon for us to think in terms of other ways to connect with people. I love it. I'm so glad to have this resource.
Well, everybody have a wonderful day, and we will see you on the next Zoom next Tuesday.
And as my friend says, namaste away from me. Namaste away from me.